PSA is taking over the TCG grading market, considering its parent company Collector has acquired Beckett. Now, there are so many questions arising. Things like, is Beckett going to cease to exist, or will this just simply boost the rarity of the Black Label? My name is PokePal Chris, and if you love anything and everything Pokemon related, go ahead and subscribe, because we drop Pokemon related content on a weekly basis. Now, let's get into this PSA and Beckett scandal. Here we have it, guys. PSA's parent company Collector has agreed to acquire Beckett. This is news as of this Monday. Beckett will remain an independent brand and continue to utilize its own operations, so they say, customer service, grading standards, marketplace, magazines, and price guides. This is all coming from Collector themselves. Orders at PSA and Beckett are expected to be processed normally, and there are expected to be no changes in pricing as part of the acquisition. Again, what they're telling you. Grading at the two companies will remain separate processes, and crossover grading will not be impacted. Again, we already know a lot of what goes on behind closed doors when it comes to PSA. PSA has been making its way in sneaking around and really just playing the capitalistic country that we live in, the United States of America, the monopoly game, right? Kind of just dibbling and dabbling, putting their names on and tackling all types of possible competitors and making sure that they are getting a piece of the pie. We've seen it with PSA and GameStop. We're now seeing it with PSA and Beckett. We also saw it within the past year, and I believe it does say it in this article, right? Beckett's acquisition is the second time Collectors has acquired a major trading card grading competitor. Collectors acquired SGC in February of last year. Now, this is where it kind of comes into play, and my worries about the company Beckett and its future, and kind of to answer those questions that we asked in the beginning of this video. If we look within the year, right, this is published December 1st of this year of 2025. PSA has a total graded of 1.66 million cards, CGC at 425K, Beckett at 74K, Tag at 39K, and all the way at the bottom, SGC at a sad 35K. And this is where it kind of comes into play, and kind of like my belief in what the future of Beckett could possibly look like. I'm not saying that there is no possible chance for the Beckett Black Label to, you know, basically boost its popularity due to the fact that now PSA has, you know, basically taken ownership of the company. Although they're claiming, again, they're going to leave everything as is. These were the same claims that were made with SGC as of last year, and now we're already kind of seeing within that year process as to what has been going on. So let's just kind of look at just other companies, like maybe Nike purchasing Converse out, or, you know, any one of these major companies buying out another company. When it comes to you buying out another company and adding it to your portfolio, in a sense, you're never going to allow the secondary, third, whatever the company that comes after the first primary money maker, you're never going to allow those companies to outweigh or outbrand that said company, aka PSA. We're going to leave PSA at the top of the mark. So we could see the same exact situation that occurred with SGC happen to Beckett itself, right? The marketing, the grading frequency, all of these things that Beckett is doing, they're going to funnel its way into PSA, right? We're not going to, at least in my belief, we're not going to see too much of Beckett being pushed out, same way we are not seeing SGC, and has literally in the data itself shown that it has pretty much become obsolete. Right now, of course, all these companies do have their own individual problems, right? Beckett obviously being the best in grading, in my opinion, and I think that's the majority of people's opinion. So there could be the benefits of Beckett's grading teams, right? Their grading practices in terms of how they hire and things like that. Maybe those can be pushed into the PSA audience, right? The PSA work system, and have, you know, those issues when it comes to grading that PSA has a numerous amount of accounts failing in, right? When it comes to the frequency in their 9s, things that should be 10s being graded 9s. This recent scandal, right, where, you know, cards were being bought back at 8 9s, and now we're seeing them pushed up to PSA 10s just to manipulate the market and, of course, make the quick extra buck. Now, in this essence itself, again, I don't see CGC out of all these companies. CGC is the closest to PSA's, I guess, volume in terms of what they grade, but at the end of the day, CGC also has its own problems. If you guys do not recall, right, we have CGC who had these, you know, prototype Pokemon cards of TCG, like what they were necessarily supposed to look like before they were actually printed and made. CGC, you know, recalls more than 1,500 Pokemon cards amid forgery investigation. Basically, CGC has struggled with the legitimacy of the cards that they're buying, and this is a trusted grading company. So this kind of worries me again with the whole monopoly capitalistic vibe that PSA is going towards, right? You're basically eliminating the competition, right? If I can't beat the competition, which I feel like PSA has been beating Beckett outside of its, you know, grading quality, a great way to beat your competition is to buy them out and drown them in just no longer pouring into the growth of said company, right? And then of course Tag at the bottom, which is relatively a new company, still seeing some growth, but again, it also has its own problems with its transparent slabs, the fragility of those slabs, right? And again, the grading behind them as well. If we just look simply down here, again, this is last month's November's grades by category, we're seeing a surplus in PSA grading, especially within the TCG market, sports, football, baseball, basketball, non-sports, etc., etc. When TCG used to be a miscellaneous topic, now it has officially, and again in the past couple months, within this full year itself in 2025, has literally surpassed all expectations and is now officially its full own, you know, category. You look seeing PSA at a 1,016.5, SGC at a 1.7, the smallest amount when it comes to that. Beckett at 38.9, CGC at 374.1, and Tag at 37.5 when it comes to TCG. Everyone is diving into the PSA. Even when it comes to sports and baseball, football, and basketball, PSA is outweighing every other grading company. And again, if you were to add up every other grading company in terms of SGC, Beckett, CGC, and Tag, and all those categories put together, they're literally not even accumulating the quantity that PSA is putting out. This very much worries me when it comes to the monopolization that PSA is going towards. They're literally taking over the TCG grading market, which can, I mean, competition is healthy. I feel like it's very healthy, especially when you kind of have, especially with collectors, you have an opportunity to choose your favorite company. Hey, I really like Tag regardless of the financial gain that you can get from grading at PSA or Beckett, right? Because Beckett's pristine Black Label 10 would give you like a 10x, 20x, 30x, whatever the case. It was crazy amounts just to get a Black Label of Beckett. So whenever you had those high-end cards, you'd go there. But just this elimination of the competition is going to, in my sense, lead to just PSA taking over. I don't think CGC would sell itself out to PSA, but it's going to become a very clear sense of who is going to be king and who is king right now, but who's going to sit on the throne for the next coming years to come. Personally, myself, I think Beckett is going to lose its value. I think PSA is going to literally, like I said, drown it to the floor, drown it, sink it, eliminate it, so that Beckett no longer becomes a household name. And we can only assume what could possibly happen within the next couple months, next couple years, whatever the case may be. But that is exactly what it's looking like with this brand new news behind this PSA and Beckett situation. You guys let me know in the comment section down below. What do you feel like is going to happen in the near future? Do you believe PSA is taking over? Is it going to literally drown out Beckett? Or will the Black Label still hold its value? Will the company still remain the same, how they're so claiming it to be? Or is everything just going to work in the favor of PSA? You guys let me know. This is Pokeball Chris, and I'll see you guys next week.